The British Museum is legally forbidden from returning stolen property. Why? Because if they return one piece, the entire museum disappears. February 1897. British forces burn Benin City to the ground. Massacre thousands. Loot 10,000 artifacts. 129 years later, these artifacts remain in European and American museums, generating revenue, building prestige. While the people who created them are told their ancestors had no civilization, this is the hidden archive. Today we're investigating the Benin Massacre, the greatest art heist in history, and the crime that's still happening. Before we discuss the destruction, you need to understand what was destroyed. Benin City, located in what is now southern Nigeria, capital of the Kingdom of Benin, not to be confused with the modern nation of Benin Republic to the west. From the 11th century through the 19th century, this was one of the most sophisticated urban centers in the world. A Dutch explorer who visited in 1602 described it as follows. Quote, "The town seemeth to be very great. When you enter it, you go into a great broad street, which is 7 or 8 times broader than the Warmo Street in Amsterdam. The houses are large, especially that of the king, which is richly decorated with fine columns." End quote. 7 to 8 times broader than Amsterdam's main street in 1602. The city featured street lighting using palm oil lamps, organized waste management, a hierarchical road system with the King's Palace at the center. The city walls and moat system stretched over 16,000 kilometers. The Guinness Book of Records calls it, quote, "the largest earthwork carried out prior to the mechanical era," end quote. For comparison, the Great Wall of China measures approximately 4,000 kilometers. Benin's was 4 times longer. The kingdom's artisans produced bronze sculptures using the lost wax casting method, a technique requiring sophisticated metallurgy knowledge. The detail work rivals anything produced in Renaissance Europe during the same period. The society was organized into guilds. Each craft had its own specialized practitioners: bronze workers, ivory carvers, textile weavers, brass smiths. The Oba, or king, presided over an elaborate court, with diplomatic relations extending to Portugal and other European powers. This was the civilization Britain destroyed in 1897. Not a village, not a primitive settlement, one of the most advanced cities in the world. By 1897, European powers had carved most of Africa into colonial territories. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 85 had formalized the scramble for Africa. The Kingdom of Benin remained independent, a sovereign state with control over trade in the region. This was a problem for Britain. The region was rich in resources Britain wanted: palm oil for industrial lubricants, ivory, rubber. But Benin controlled the trade, set the terms, charged tariffs. Britain wanted direct access. January 1897. James Phillips, British acting consul general, decides to visit Benin City. He was warned by Benin officials not to come. The kingdom was in the middle of the Igwe festival, a sacred annual ceremony. No outsiders were permitted during this time. Phillips came anyway. His party was ambushed. Phillips and most of his delegation were killed. Whether this was a planned attack or a defensive action during a sacred period depends on which account you read. British sources call it an unprovoked massacre. Benin oral traditions describe it as defending sacred space from unwanted intruders. What's undisputed is what happened next. British newspapers exploded with outrage. Headlines demanded retaliation. The incident was framed as savagery that must be punished. Quote, "A punitive expedition is being organized." End quote. Punitive. That word is important. This wasn't described as a military campaign for territorial control. It was punishment. 1 month later, February 1897, 1,200 British troops, armed with modern rifles, Maxim guns, artillery. They marched toward Benin City. The British documented this expedition extensively. Reports, photographs, correspondence. Much of it still exists in the National Archives in London. They documented their own crime. February 18, 1897. British forces enter Benin City. They burn it, systematically, building by building. Quote from Admiral Harry Rawson's report. "I have to report that on the 18th February, the city of Benin was captured and burned." End quote. Estimates of civilian deaths vary. The British kept no count of Benin casualties. Oral histories speak of thousands killed. The Oba's palace, the spiritual and administrative heart of the kingdom, destroyed. The bronzes, the ivory carvings, the royal regalia, taken. And they photographed themselves doing it. 10,000 artifacts. That's the estimate. Bronze sculptures, ivory carvings, brass plaques, royal regalia, ceremonial objects, historical records, everything of cultural value, taken. Some items were designated for the British Museum. Others were sold at auction to fund the expedition. Still others were given to officers as personal souvenirs. June 1897, London. An auction house advertises, quote, "Benin bronzes and ivory carvings, the property of the Crown, by order of the Foreign Office." End quote. They stole the artifacts, then sold them publicly, legally, with government authorization. Today, a single Benin bronze can sell for millions at auction. 2019, Christie's auction. A Benin bronze head sells for £2.7 million. 2021, a brass plaque sells for $3.1 million. 10,000 artifacts? Do the math. The artifacts didn't stay in Britain. They were sold, traded, gifted, scattered across Europe and North America. Today, Benin artifacts are held in at least 161 museums worldwide. British Museum, approximately 900 objects. Berlin Ethnological Museum, approximately 500. Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York, approximately 160. Vienna Museum of Ethnology, approximately 170. And hundreds more in private collections. University museums, regional institutions. These museums didn't steal the artifacts themselves. They acquired them from Britain. They purchased them at auction. They received them as donations. But they're holding stolen property, and they know it. The British Museum, Free admission. 8 million visitors annually. One of the world's most prestigious cultural institutions. Gallery 25. The Sainsbury African Galleries. Here you'll find approximately 900 Benin objects, beautifully displayed, professionally lit, interpretive panels explaining their historical significance. The labels describe the artistic technique, the historical context, the cultural importance. What the labels often minimize is how the museum acquired them. The British Museum website states, quote, "The majority of the collection was acquired as a result of the British military expedition to Benin City in 1897." End quote. Acquired as a result of. Not looted. Not stolen. Acquired. The museum gift shop sells postcards, posters, books, jewelry, all featuring images of the Benin bronzes. Annual gift shop revenue for the British Museum exceeds tens of millions of pounds. How much of that comes from Benin imagery? The museum doesn't break it down publicly. The museum rents its galleries for corporate events, weddings, fundraisers. Imagine hosting your reception surrounded by artifacts stolen during a massacre. Premium pricing. The museum publishes books, exhibition catalogs, academic journals, many featuring the Benin collection. Royalties, prestige, academic authority, all built on stolen property. Germany holds approximately 500 Benin objects, primarily in the Ethnological Museum in Berlin. In 2021, Germany announced it would return its Benin bronzes to Nigeria. 2022. Germany begins the returns. 72 objects in the first transfer. 72 out of 500. Full repatriation is promised, but it's happening slowly, object by object, a process that could take decades. The Metropolitan Museum in New York, the Museum of Ethnology in Vienna, Cambridge University, Oxford, the Smithsonian, all hold Benin artifacts. Some institutions have begun discussions about returns, established committees, engaged in dialogue. Nigeria has been requesting these artifacts since independence in 1960. 64 years of requesting, 64 years of dialogue. To date, fewer than 200 objects have been returned. Out of 10,000, that's less than 2%. Benin City today. Population over 1 million. Capital of Edo State in Nigeria. The Edo Museum of West African Art is under construction, scheduled to open in 2025. A world-class facility designed to house returned artifacts. Designed by Ghanaian-British architect David Adjaye. Funded in part by international organizations. But what will it display if the artifacts aren't returned? Nigerian children learn about Benin civilization from photographs, from European museum websites, not from the actual objects their ancestors created. Meanwhile, British children walk into the British Museum for free and see these masterpieces. If a Nigerian wants to see their own cultural heritage, they must obtain a visa, purchase a flight to London, pay for accommodation in one of the world's most expensive cities, to see what was stolen from their city. 129 years. The British Museum has profited from these artifacts for 129 years. Tourism revenue, gift shop sales, publication royalties, international prestige, academic authority. calculate the compound value of that prestige, that tourism draw, that academic authority, over more than a century. The museum hides behind law. The British Museum Act of 1963 states that the museum's collection cannot be disposed of except in very limited circumstances. A law written by the colonizers to protect what the colonizers stole. But laws can change. France changed its laws to allow returns. The Netherlands changed its laws. Germany changed its laws. Britain refuses. Not because they can't, because they won't. Every day these artifacts remain in European museums, the crime continues. This isn't historical injustice. This is present-day theft. Active, ongoing, profitable. The solution is simple. Full, unconditional, immediate return. Every Benin artifact in British possession. Returned to Nigeria. Every artifact in German collections. Returned to Nigeria. Every artifact in American museums. Returned to Nigeria. No loans, no conditions, no strings attached. Ownership transferred completely, permanently. Financial restitution for 129 years of unauthorized use. Calculate the tourism revenue these artifacts generated, the gift shop profits, the publication royalties, the prestige value. Pay it back. Public acknowledgement. Not buried in academic journals, not hidden in museum wall text. A public statement admitting what happened was theft, was genocide, was wrong. Here's how you can help. Research task. Find which museums in your area hold Benin artifacts. Document them. Share your findings. Institutional pressure. Contact the British Museum. Demand a timeline for full repatriation. Email them. Tag them on social media. Don't stop. Support Nigerian institutions. The Edo Museum of West African Art needs support. Share their work. Donate if you can. Educate. Share this video. Share the evidence. Make it impossible to ignore. The artifacts belong in Benin City, with the people who created them, with the descendants who've been denied their heritage for over a century. The British Museum has 90 days to announce a full repatriation plan. We're counting. The world is watching. This is the Hidden Archive, where we document the crimes they want forgotten. Subscribe for the next investigation. Share this everywhere. Join the community in the description. The truth cannot stay hidden.